to Freshly Forever, a podcast that gives you fascinating insights week after week. Here's your host, Vi Kumar.
Why is sleep important for any individual, more so the adolescent phase, Lisa?
Yes, and I think that is such a good point. What a critical phase adolescence is. What the amount of change that our kids are going through during those teen years is so immense. I mean, we see it on the outside. They transform from children into adults. You know, you look at an 18-year-old and they often look like adults. They're not yet, though, of course. And that's because, in fact, they are still undergoing so much development that we can't see, you know, the stuff going on under the hood, the brain development, all the transformations taking place. So, you know, again, back to that point, we look at them and they look like mini adults, but they're really not. And they don't yet have adult sleep needs. They still have adolescent sleep needs, which are more so. So, for instance, as an adult, we should be getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep every single night. Those are the official recommendations. For our teens, though, up until age 18, they should be getting 8 to 10 hours every single night. And so I think it starts with that, of just helping people understand really the amount of sleep that our teens should be getting for optimal functioning. So in terms of my book, what I tried to do was provide all this information to parents and present it in a way that was easy to understand, and sort of provide the context for it. So it was sort of truly, it was the book that I wish that I had back in 2015 when.
Oh, absolutely. Every parent, right? We all wrestle with this issue.
Absolutely. And there's so much that I think it helps once you understand some of the basics of sleep, starting with how much sleep our teens should be getting, also including really key aspects like the fact that our teens are actually on a different sleep schedule than we are as adults, because at puberty, their sleep schedule starts to shift later. It's their circadian rhythm shifts. And what that means is that they are no longer feeling sleepy as early as they used to, nor are they feeling rested and ready to wake up as early as they used to. So as parents, you know, if you've had a 6-year-old who bounds out of bed at 6:30, you know, they can be, you know, just ready to go right at dawn, but your teen is not going to do the same thing. And that is biologically based. So you've got a couple of these major, you know, truths when it comes to teen sleep, that A, they need 8 to 10 hours of sleep. B, they're on this later sleep schedule. And then C, the final piece of this equation often is the school start times. When they're so early, that makes it virtually impossible for teens who aren't feeling sleepy until later at night to be able to get enough sleep. Because if they have to wake too early in the morning, chances are very, very good that they are not then able to get those 8 to 10 hours of sleep.
Okay. So what then happens when the alarm clock goes off? Like, there's always this inclination to hit the snooze button, right? Even for us adults, you know, like some of us are like, you know, only very few of us, I should say, are able to jump out right out of bed, feeling like, okay, I'm ready for the morning. Whereas
Absolutely.
most of us tend to go for that snooze button, I would say.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that is one of the things that I do touch on in the book is when you look at ways that you can help avoid sort of cutting into your sleep more than you need to. And unfortunately, using a snooze button actually is cutting into your sleep more than you need to, because that extra amount of sleep that you get after you hit the snooze button is negligible in terms of the overall whole. And it's not as high quality as it would have been if you hadn't hit the snooze button at all and had just set your alarm clock for a later time. So there's that piece of it. That said, though, waking too early really is an issue. And that's why when it comes to our teens who are in middle school and high school, and when their schools are starting too early, that is a major piece of the problem. It is not the only thing affecting their sleep, but it is a major one, and it is fairly straightforward to address. their early wake times are tied to their early school bells. And so if you can adjust the school bells, you can allow them to be able to sleep later in the morning.
When it comes to healthy approach to technology, though, how best can we make people realize the need to protect themselves? And based on research findings, what are some of the harmful effects that you can highlight here, Gigi? Whatever caused you to create this product?
Well, it goes back to sleep, which is the cornerstone to our health. And if you don't sleep right, you wake up the next day, you don't want to eat the healthy foods. You want to go get something like a hamburger or pizza or something. You also aren't at your peak performance. And so it can affect your weight. It can affect your cognitive function when you don't sleep well. Sleep is also when your body recovers. It's when your muscles recover. It's when your brain processes everything it learned during the day. So if we don't have sleep, we can get very sick, and it just depends on sort of how affected you are. There was an interesting study about a basketball player who tweeted at night, and then late at night, so he probably didn't get a good night's sleep, and he didn't do as well in the basketball game the next day. And so our sleep affects our performance. And I think our society is so performance driven. We all try and eat well, we exercise, we take vitamins, but we're spending 8 to 11 hours a day staring at screens. So what are we doing to be mindful about our screen time? Mm-hmm. And your circadian rhythm also affects your metabolism. And so I just think the sleep is really the most important part of it for our health.
Screens have been too much of a part of our entire life. So no phones, no devices in the bedroom. Absolutely not. Yes, as their upper years, junior and senior in high school, they need some practice, right? So they can have it on the other side of their bed, either side of their room, away from their bed. But when they're younger, screens should be down. We have a tray in our kitchen, and it's got a charging station. That's where all the devices go. And no phones at dinner. And also no phones as you're driving around town, like you're just doing daily, long road trips. That's a different thing, but no devices. The car is such a great time for connection and communication with your kids. Teens, especially, because we often think teens aren't interested. They don't want to be with us. They don't want to, but it's not true. That is, our teens need us more than ever. Mm-hmm. There's so much there. So knowing that your kids really want and need connection, that you as parents are the most important thing to your children, even if they don't make you feel like it, or if you don't even feel like it. So you having connection and communication as a goal is really important. And the ways to help you do that are to get the sleep you need for yourself. Put your phone on the other side of the room if you have it in your bedroom, right? To get those recommended 7 to 9 hours of sleep. And our kids also, that's another reason mental health is struggling, because our kids are sleep deprived. They have their devices in their room and they're up at all nights. You can't function if you're not sleeping well. So that's a huge issue.
You kind of start with the sleeping environment first, because when your body sleeps is when it repairs. Right? So here's another environmental toxin, Wi-Fi and cell phone radiation and electricity.
Thank you for bringing that up. I was going to ask you. Yeah. Hugely
impact on health and the immune system. I've been blogging about Wi-Fi and cell phone radiation for over a decade. I have my own radiation meters. Right here, I'm at my ranch. I'm like in the Canadian wilderness. So I have Starlink satellite, but I have hardwired it into an Ethernet cable, and that's what I use for my computer here. There's a lot of things you can do to reduce your radiation exposure, but your bedroom is where you absolutely have to get your radiation and your electromagnetic, like all your electrical stuff, like unplug everything. Don't have get your cell phone out of your bedroom and turn it, not just turn it onto airplane, because most people don't know this. Like if you have an iPhone and you put it in airplane, your Wi-Fi is still running. On your computer, Apple has programmed everything so your Bluetooth is automatically turned on, right? If you're wearing Bluetooth headphones, I was astounded how much radiation those emit. I was absolutely gobsmacked, some of them more than a cell phone. So, you either get yourself a radiation meter or you follow the guidelines for getting all these things down. So again, like I have an entire chapter where I take people through, and you start with your bedroom, because if you can get, that 6 or 8 or whatever hours you're sleeping per night where your cells can heal and repair themselves, then you can have, you're far further ahead in the healing game than someone who, is never going to get a good night's sleep, because all the systems of your body can never just drop down into deep rest and healing.
Eating when really the body can do its job well. When you're out and about and moving, probably it's easier for the body to process it rather than when you're going resting late in the evening and at night.
Right.
Feeding
And
big meat, right?
Exactly. And then, sleep is never as good. If you've eaten and then people just go to bed, or they go to bed an hour later, you want a minimum of 2 hours really, but you're better off, really having dinner between 5 and 7, that last meal. And obviously you've got to kind of think about, how do I want to feel? Okay. Do I want a good night's sleep? Even if I know it's nice to eat with partners or something like that, or, family and things, but sometimes you could eat a little bit earlier yourself. You can still sit at the table with them. And if they don't want to eat earlier, and be with them whilst they're having their food. With the Ayurveda, again, it's looking to make certain choices. And again, I come back to this thing of, is this taking me towards a place of balance or away from it? And, in Ayurveda, we talk about 3 causes of disease, okay? And one of them is this disregard for nature's rhythms. But there's also a disregard for the body's rhythms, right? So not honoring when you need to go to the toilet, for example, not honoring when you need to go and sleep, not honoring hunger, not honoring thirst. Simple things like not honoring a yawn, keeping your mouth closed, but really trying to hide it because we feel it's not appropriate to yawn. You can always cover your mouth, but they're expressions. It's the body's trying to do something.
And I just want to focus on the role of sleep when it comes to being healthy. People don't seem to realize the gift of good health and what is the role of sleep, and how best can we emphasize in this forum about the need for better sleep.
Okay, let me tell you, the American Sleep Association has come out that you should get 7 to 9 hours of sleep every night. The sleep has 4 stages. What you have is the rapid eye movement sleep, REM sleep, or the non-rapid eye movement sleep, NREM sleep. Now, all your dreams and all are done in the REM sleep. And your NREM sleep, non-REM sleep is more important than your REM sleep. In a non-REM sleep, you're completely relaxed. Your muscles are paralyzed. You're out. This is in 4 stages. So first you get your non-REM sleep. Then you get your REM sleep. Then you begin. So it goes on. There are 4 or 5 stages so that you get this 4 stages that I'm talking about. In a group, there are 4 or 5 like this so that you get restorative sleep. Now, if these things are not, say you get nightmares and you get up in your REM sleep, then this is not restorative. It makes you more tired. So the idea is that the moment your eyes open, the first thing you should ask, how am I feeling? If you're not feeling up to date, that means there's something wrong in your sleep. If your diet is okay, your exercise, you've done everything, something wrong with your sleep. So then comes a time whether you meditate before going to sleep, or you stop seeing TV before you go to sleep, soft lights, try to this thing, whatever it is there to make you go to sleep in a nice way. Like my wife, if you see a movie that is very, very frightening, that she will not go to sleep. So all these are factors. Everybody can't follow everything, but sleep should be restorative, at least 7 to 9 hours. Now, if you ask me and say, Akhil, do you get 7 to 9 hours? No. I don't. I'm working on it. I get about 6 hours max.
Back in a moment with our guest on Fresh Leaf Forever.
Like I said, I am not perfect, but I am trying to get there. So that is my this thing on sleep.
And we all are sometimes found wanting in certain aspects. And one of those, I think, definitely is swimming against the tide of nature and getting out of sync with our body and mind, right? Like we sleep and wake up at odd times. We don't necessarily honor circadian rhythms. Some people tend to eat late because of their work schedule and whatnot. So, what is your advice there? And again, how does the integration with yoga, breathing, and meditation, all of that come in?
I think you hit on it there, Vi, with sleeping, the sleep times. I think that our waking and sleeping times are a big anchor for everything else that happens in the day and when we feel most energetic and when we feel most tired. I think getting in sync, definitely moving our sleep time closer to sunset, a few hours after sunset maybe, and moving our waking time also closer to sunrise, then those things make such a huge difference. Our bodies respond to the light a lot, so we get more energy when the sun is up rather than staying up in the night and working or engaging. And it's fine to do these things sometimes, of course, but it's when that's the daily rhythm that it can start to affect our health. So I do think that sleeping and eating at kind of regular and appropriate times is really important and makes a big difference. And traditionally, the best time for your yoga and your meditation is as part of the morning dinacharya, because it does set up your mind space for the rest of the day. The idea is that we are the most clear in the morning. When we get up in that morning, nothing has happened yet. And so when we purify the body and mind with some yoga practices, some breathing and meditation, it's like we get our prana moving in a nice way. The sense organs are alert yet calm. And it's like we take that into our day. And then all of our activities throughout that day, we come to them in this place where we're alert but calm and making kind of what I notice is that when we do a little purification of the mind before the day, we make better choices throughout the day. And so, and it doesn't have to be a big 2-hour practice. I think even for someone to get up 10 minutes earlier, and do 10 minutes of quiet breathing or alternate nostril breath, some guided meditation, just the 10 minutes can change one's entire life.
And organ detoxification, everything happens according to the clock, right? So I guess your advice there to sleep based on sunrise, sunset, like sleep few hours after sunset and then wake up, anytime after or just around sunrise or maybe even earlier, all that can help. And I guess the Agni and Ama, the sticky substance that you have been talking about, the toxic buildup, and Agni being the digestive fire, all that also has relevance to the sun, right? To the clock.
Right. Yeah. So your Agni is that word that means fire. And our sun is at its zenith, at the middle of the day. So that's when the fire element is the strongest in our environment. Therefore, it's also the strongest within the body. So the digestive fire is strongest at midday, which is between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. And that's the best time for eating food. That's when we're going to digest our food the best and build the best tissue.
And so eat the bulk of the meals at that time is preferable.
Right, exactly. And so you'll always hear this routine in Ayurveda to eat a big lunch and a lighter dinner. And that will support the body's detoxification process in the night and the nutritive process that happens during the day.
And does eating late and sleeping late also contribute more to the sticky substance, which is the buildup of the toxins or the toxic release?
Yes. Yeah. So, the thing is when we eat at night, we'll generally go to bed, within a few hours after eating. And so when we go into the bed and sleep, the body's digestive process becomes very slow.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's this confusion in the body. Well, we're supposed to detoxify at night, but now we're full of food.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we'll have to just digest this food instead. And then that detoxification process is being compromised by the eating of food late. So, if we can get the food done by like 7 p.m., that's pretty good. Because again, this detoxification cycle kicks in around 10 p.m. And goes until 2 a.m. And that's when the organs are detoxifying. And so that's where if we can stop eating around 7, then we've got that 3 hours for the food to kind of pass through the early stages of digestion. And then those organs are free to detox while we're sleeping. It's a big shift to eat in the day and less at night, but it's totally worthwhile.
Okay. Your signature message, clearer mind, better performance, right? So what strength psychology methods do you typically give organizations or its employees to become better?
Sure. When it comes to strength psychology techniques to have a clearer mind, it really all comes down to one main thing. And that really, quite frankly, is sleep. Sleep is the number one factor in performance. And the better we're sleeping, the mind usually heals itself when we're sleeping. It clears itself out. The problem is, most people are sleeping about 6 hours a day. They're logging about 6 hours of screen time, maybe more. And so in the last 10 years, we've seen this huge shift from a lot of people around the world are just getting more screen time than they are hours of sleep. And they're on their phones, social media. And therein lies this massive cell phone addiction problem that's driving the sleep epidemic, which is really impacting mental health. So when we talk about how to have a clear mind, better performance, the very first place I start with companies, corporations, with athletes is let's take a deep dive on sleep.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you said insomnia earlier, and then you also talked about the need for better sleep. Makes me, again, want to ask this and say this as well. Is it a matter of you and me taking to, say, a forum like LinkedIn or somewhere and bringing this up for it to, change for the better? Because the work culture overall seems to be completely immersed, especially in intergeographic companies, companies that operate globally. People operating in different time zones, they are not eating right, they are not sleeping well. And so how do we bring about this cultural shift? Because when it's dinner time somewhere, people are forced to be on calls, forced as in, the demands of work make them, be on calls still, and they're not eating on time, and they're definitely not sleeping on time. So how do we bring about this culture change?
You're asking a question that I don't have the answer to. I mean, the truth is, this is really, really complicated and really hard. And you're absolutely right. As we become more united around the world, and time zones are different, and our circadian rhythm, our natural rhythm that each person's body has with the environment that's around them, that's shifting. And so what we know is that a lot of what's happening isn't really healthy for us. It's not really good for our overall health and well-being. And so how do we create boundaries around technology when we all live in a world of immediacy? We want it now. And if you don't want to provide it, that's fine. We'll just get somebody else. And so that is a unanswerable question at this point in time. My mind's not smart enough to answer that or solve that. But I do think that we have to find a way to make it a little bit better for each individual so that we can have greater mental health.
Exactly, because it is certainly playing into someone's mental health, right? And we live in this era of great resignation that we are seeing in companies. And so I guess the need for the hour is that empathetic, leaders. What is it? How do they build confidence and trust in employees? And how can we foster mental health? Because I think somewhere there needs to be some forum that can just bring this message out loud and clear, correct? Is it just
For
like
sure.
you said, you and me writing on LinkedIn, creating awareness, or is it you and me sitting on this podcast, or in conjunction to that, bringing it up in other forums? Or is it a matter of, leaders being more empathetic? What is it?
Yeah, great question. And I think the truth is, when it comes to business, follow the money.
Mhm.
And a lot of times company leaders will give lip service to the importance of mental health, for example, in their organization. But if you really stop and think about it, like, how many webinars are they hosting for their employees to watch? What type of speakers are they bringing in? What books are they having them read?
Mhm.
What one-on-one resources are they providing? And the harsh reality is, the answer a lot of times is that, yeah, it's a check the box item, but we're not really going below the surface. We're not really going deep on this topic. That's wherein the cultural shift is beginning, but oftentimes there's not the funding behind it to make it meet the need of the people today.
About the role of nutrition and other aspects relating to rest and recovery. And I guess that is called SLEEP, right?
Sleep. Yes, I was like, yes. I mean, listen, sleep is critical. And I would tell you, from somebody who used to be a night owl and not sleep, and I'm actually one of those people who can function with not much sleep, but it is not good for you. Your body restores when you sleep, and the quality of your sleep and when you go to bed, it is super, super key, especially if you're exercise. Athletes, some of them exercise for hours and hours in a day. You have to rest. You have to get quality sleep. You have to have the right sleeping environment. Also, remember that the quality of sleep, if you go to bed at 2 a.m., is not the same as when you go to bed at 10 p.m. And especially for a lot of young athletes, that's a thing, right? Because once again, they can get away with it. But it is super important to give a chance to your body and your organs to recoup and rejuvenate and rest, so that you can be at your peak performance.
Mm-hmm.
And nutrition goes hand in hand with that. Once again, when you're younger, you can get away with more things. Is it good for you? No, because it wears and tears your body more.
But not at the professional level, or not at the highest competing level. Even collegiate is like so demanding that you really cannot get away with it.
Because really, nutrition is playing such a key factor, once again, of sustaining your performance and recovery from performance. And that's when I say you have to have the right support system.
At age, they don't see consequences, right? And kids' metabolisms are fast. They're still growing. They heal much faster. So what we are seeing is a lot more overuse injuries. So nutrition has become that much more important. Hydration. Most of us are dehydrated to the point that then you can't even tell if you're hungry or tired or what. There's actually, through Lisa Lewis's great book on sleep, the sleep deprived teen, she talked about the Stanford study, and I mentioned it in my book as well. When they had the Stanford men's basketball team just try to sleep 8 hours a night, they did a free throw experiment with them. So shooting with lack of sleep, how many do you make? Shooting with having slept just 8 to 9 hours, everybody's percentages increased by 10%. Like, that's huge, right? Just even thinking about making the shot and then actually practicing the shot, but then adding sleep to that. Sleep is a superpower. And I think it's very underrated. And unfortunately, with cell phones being in everybody's hand 24/7, and the kids are sleeping on them or with them and waking up and scrolling and going to bed scrolling, sleep is going by the wayside. And when you are exhausted, you don't make good decisions. Nobody does. And if you're putting, all the crap in your body of fast food and junk food and sugar all the time, it's just the compounding effect in a negative way around performance. So I'm actually doing that exercise with my oldest. He's just graduated college, but he's got another year or two to play at a grad school, and he wasn't feeling well. I said, well, let's strip everything away. Get off of sugar, get off of the caffeine, get off of things that aren't helping your brain, and give me 8 to 10 hours of sleep a night. And let's talk in a week.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very important for us to kind of role model, like you talk about in the book again, as to what habits, we demonstrate. That's what is going to kind of sit with them, gel with them more than just preaching. So you practice what you preach, and that really helps them.
They're listening to almost nothing of what we say, or it feels that way. Yeah, whatever. They're of course taking little notes, and they'll regurgitate it back to you later. So they are listening, even when sometimes you get the eye roll and they're walking out when you're still talking to them. They're paying attention, but even more, they're watching us. Are you getting good sleep? Are you reading?
The thing about, overtraining syndrome, and we know a lot with females, of course, too. We used to call it the female triad, but now it's like males as well, that we're completely zapping their hormones because they're training too much and the body just doesn't have enough time to recover. And so yeah, there's actually over here at University of Washington, they're doing a lot on looking at females' hormones and some of what the training cycles are, because it's too much. So when they're growing, they're going to need more rest. And so unfortunately with, again, this sports culture, we have this like, push it as hard as you can. We want to be better than the other team. And I would just love it if some of these leagues, like one of the coaches just takes a stand and be like, I'm not going to do it like the other ones. Let's see who ends up on top, and adds in more of this.
Yeah, I would really applaud that coach if you can tell me one.
Good luck. Yeah. No, but it's so scary, right? So it's so scary to do something different. But yeah, so there's that piece. Also, we know, and this is a big realization that's came with some of these integrative medical doctors that are going out of the box of understanding here too with the sleep thing. There's all this kind of like weird, I don't know, misinformation out there about like, oh, all you need is 5 hours. Well, I've always been fine with 5 hours of sleep. I'm totally fine. It's like, no, we know at 5 hours of sleep or less, you already have neuroinflammation. If you already have inflammation in your body, there's no possible way that you can really gain. You can't make gains. Your brain is inflamed. Your nervous system's inflamed. When our brain's inflamed, we can't focus. We have a hard time sleeping. And that's mental illness symptoms come forward with brain inflammation. All this stuff with COVID, Dr. Daniel Amen has seen that the limbic brain, so our emotional brain in the middle, is hot. It's inflamed. And so this is scary stuff. We don't want any brain inflammation. That's what creates the inability to flush that tau protein and the toxins. And so that's the buildup of any of these neurocognitive or CTE or any of these diseases. So when I'm looking at athletes that are heading soccer balls and playing contact sports, my gosh, if you're not getting 5 hours of sleep or more, we're already looking at your potential of developing one of these neurocognitive diseases. So terrifying. So 8 hours of sleep then at 8, we know that's what we need to recharge our dopamine and serotonin. Our brain can't function without enough dopamine and serotonin. So of course we're going to have, again, these mental illness symptoms. So we need at least 8. Then if you look at a developing, growing athlete, and yes, you're growing till you're 25, and that's when you start to decline and not build up as fast. So again, all the way through college, right? So we need like 10 hours of sleep is what these kids need, but they're not getting it. And you're right, they're not getting it. I had a swim client, 11-year-old, and every time we get on, she's going, I'm just tired a lot. My practice doesn't get out till 9 o'clock, and I have to be up for school at 6:30. And I'm just like, but again, I have no control over when her practice is held. I have no control, and so it's like this resistance to, an 11-year-old practice till 9 o'clock at night. Whoa, that's a lot. I
guess that's where the quality over quantity emphasis comes in, right? I think for them to just focus and give their best for an hour is probably better than them just lingering there for like 3 hours. What is the importance of sleep in helping an individual rejuvenate and feel good? Because that seems like a much ignored aspect, and I want you to throw light on that aspect, please.
So the night is as important, if not more, than the day. We all our life is about designing our day. I say, if you put half as much effort in designing your night, planning for your night, you won't have to do much in the day. Like the day will be a breeze, because the 3 pillars in Ayurveda, the Trayopasthamba, 3 pillars of well-being are ahar, food, nidra, sleep,
brahmacharyas, how appropriately you use your senses. Nidra or sleep is huge from all aspects. Your body is going through free repair. Like your cells say, hey, it's such a loving, I feel so grateful to the body because it's such a loving service your body offers and says, hey, why go to sleep? It's time for you to rest. I'll do the work. And, all of these great juices come out to rest, repair, see what's needed, what's not needed, to throw gunk out, to process emotions. I mean, what a gift sleep is, right? And it's like a mother. Sleep is like a mother says, I'll just be there for you. You don't know anything. I'm here for you. And when we don't give sleep that due importance, right? What a big opportunity is taken. What a big disrespect it is to your body. So I'd say if, sometimes you have to choose between sleep and exercise, like this morning, right? I had to choose between sleep and exercise. And I love on a Monday morning to wake up, meditate, exercise. And I said, I'll have to give up either my exercise or my meditation. And I gave up my exercise because I realized that my body needed that extra sleep. So sleep is even more important than exercise, I would say. Not the kapha type of sleep, that lazy sleep where you've gotten enough, but you must build more and sleep more. But intuitively what sleep you need. Sleep earlier, wake up earlier is my recommendation. But not to be ignored, of course, there's a whole podcast we can do on good sleep.
Oh, yes.
Many, many aspects of it. But all I can say is give it more importance than you give your day.